The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark.
Glory to you, O Lord.
At that time, Sadducees came to Jesus, who say that there is no resurrection. And they asked him a question, saying, "Teacher, Moses wrote for us that if a man's brother dies and leaves a wife, but leaves no child, the man must take the wife and raise up children for his brother. There were 7 brothers. The first took a wife, and when he died, left no children. And the second took her and died, leaving no children. And the third likewise, and the 7 left no children. Last of all, the woman died. In the resurrection, whose wife will she be? For the 7 had her as wife." Jesus said to them, "Is not this why you are wrong, that you know neither the Scriptures nor the power of God? For when they rise from the dead, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven. And as for the dead being raised, have you not read in the book of Moses, in the passage about the bush, how God said to him, 'I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob'? He is not God of the dead, but of the living. You are quite wrong." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Clever Sadducees. The Gospel writer makes a point in the beginning to say that the Sadducees do not believe in the resurrection. And so they come to Jesus with a conundrum. They come to Jesus specifically to trap him, and so to get him to admit that there is no resurrection. Jesus, of course, sees through this whole thing. Now, in the first reading today, and in the readings previous to this, throughout the Acts of the Apostles, we have seen how the early church struggled to come into being. We have seen the trials and tribulations, the challenges, the difficulties, the tests of character and faith that great characters in the past have undergone, specifically Paul, in order to spread the message of the gospel, the message of Jesus Christ amidst much adversity. The same adversity that our Lord Jesus faced. Adversity from unbelievers and believers alike. Questions, traps, challenges to authority, sneakiness, underhandedness, outright confrontation. Difficulties and challenges that Jesus says that we will all face throughout the ages, that it started with him and it will continue with us. No pupil is greater than his master. If the world hates you, remember that it hated me before it hated you. Jesus says to each and every one of us, they did this to me. They cornered me, and they will try to corner you. Today, we celebrate the martyrdom of Saint Charles Lwanga and his companions. Martyrdom is the shedding of one's blood for the gospel, for the values of the gospel, for the faith and for the love of the faith. Martyrdom is that supreme sacrifice where one values one's faith, one's relationship with God, above one's very own existence in this world. The ultimate challenge, the ultimate confrontation. Now, many of us are not called to be martyrs in the sense of St. Charles Lwanga and his companions. Many of us, throughout our lives, most of us, throughout our lives, will never be called to make that ultimate sacrifice. We'll never be challenged in that way. We'll never be cornered in that way to shed our blood for Jesus Christ. But there are the small martyrdoms of everyday living that Jesus was alluding to in the final passages of the Gospels, when he says, "They did this to me, they will do it to you." The small martyrdoms of everyday life that the world calls us to, for the witness to our faith. The martyrdom of compassion in a world grown cold. The martyrdom of love in a world full of hate and intolerance. The martyrdom of self-sacrifice in a world that says, more for you, less for others. There are the small martyrdoms, the small witnesses that we, each and every one of us, in our own unique situations and circumstances, can perform and should perform every day of our lives to witness to the values of the gospel, to witness to the gospel itself. And so, my dear brothers and sisters, in honor of St. Charles Lwanga and his companions, in honor of all the martyrs that have made that supreme sacrifice, that have shed their blood, let us search our own conscience today. Let us consider what small martyrdoms, what small sacrifices we can perform in our own lives, in our everyday lives, to witness to the same gospel that they sacrificed for, the same person that they sacrificed for, Jesus Christ. How can I, in my own life, better serve the gospel? How can I, in my own life, better serve Jesus Christ? Amen.